Liz wasn't crying because she missed Big Ed. She was crying because she finally realized she never actually had him. The fight in that tiny San Diego apartment didn't start on camera. It started hours before when Liz saw the DMs. Not from a mystery woman, not from some random fan, but from someone who knew exactly how to get under her skin. And when Big Ed sat there, calm, rehearsed, almost relieved, that's when you could see it. This wasn't another breakup. This was a strategic exit. I know what you're thinking. Haven't we seen this movie before? Liz and Ed break up, they get back together, engagement ring on, engagement ring off, rinse and repeat. But listen to this. Season 5, Episode 3 of 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life didn't just show a breakup. It showed the moment Liz quietly detached for real. And the craziest part? It wasn't because of Ed. It was because of someone new. But here's the part TLC cameras didn't show. While Ed was telling producers he was ready to focus on himself, Liz had already been texting someone from her past. Not a rebound, not a random guy at the bar, someone who knew her before the fame, before the memes, before she became that girl who keeps taking Ed back. This is where the 90-day dream quietly fell apart. Let's rewind for a second. Big Ed Brown, the franchise lightning rod from 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days, built his brand on being the awkward, vulnerable underdog. Then he met Liz Woods, a restaurant manager who wasn't even supposed to be part of the franchise. Their relationship wasn't built through a K-1 visa timeline. It was local, fast, messy. No 90 days ticking down, no embassy interview stress, just pure emotional chaos. But emotionally, it was the same K-1 pressure cooker. Control, jealousy, ultimatums, public humiliation. And in Episode 3, Ed finally tells all, or at least he thinks he does. He sits there explaining why he had to end it, says Liz was unstable, says she was clingy, says he felt disrespected. Classic deflection. And if you've watched this franchise long enough, you know the pattern. When someone says they're ending things for their mental health, it usually means they lost control of the narrative. Reddit caught it immediately. On the 90 Day Fiancé subreddit, one fan wrote, "Ed didn't break up with Liz because she's toxic. He broke up with her because she stopped begging." That comment got thousands of upvotes in hours. I know what you're thinking. Maybe Liz really was toxic. Maybe this was mutual destruction. But listen to this. There was a scene TLC barely lingered on. Liz sitting alone, staring at her phone, not calling Ed, not crying hysterically, just quiet. And in that silence, you could see something shift. She wasn't panicking. She was processing. And then came the twist, Liz's new crush. They teased it lightly, a guy she reconnected with, someone kind, someone calm, someone who didn't make her audition for affection. And for the first time in years, Liz looked nervous in a different way. Not scared of losing someone, scared of actually being seen. But here's what blew up Twitter. Fans found the guy's Instagram before the episode even finished airing. Screenshots started circulating, comments flooded in. He's way out of Ed's league. Watch Ed spiral. Liz finally leveled up. And Ed did spiral. In his confessionals, he laughed it off, said he hopes Liz finds happiness, said he wants nothing but the best. But his body language? Tight jaw, forced smile, rapid blinking. That wasn't peace, that was ego damage. But here's the detail nobody's talking about. While Liz was exploring this new connection, Sophie was stuck in a completely different kind of trap. Sophie's toxic cycle isn't loud like Ed and Liz, it's quieter, more subtle, and somehow more dangerous. You remember how her relationship with Rob started? Long distance, financial stress, arguments over trust, the infamous bathroom situation that divided the internet. And now, in the single life, we're seeing the aftershocks. Sophie says she wants independence, says she's done with the emotional roller coaster, but then she answers the call. Then she responds to the text. Then she shows up just to talk. This is where the 90-day dream quietly fell apart for her. because it was never just about love. It was about proving the haters wrong, proving her mom wrong, proving Reddit wrong. Every time fans called Rob manipulative, Sophie defended him. Every time he minimized her feelings, she justified it. And in episode 3, when she admits she still checks his location, you can feel the audience collectively exhale. Not in relief, in recognition. We've all seen this cycle before. But here's the part TLC cameras didn't show. After the episode aired, Sophie went live on Instagram. She didn't name Rob directly, but she talked about trauma bonds, about confusing chaos with chemistry, about mistaking intensity for love. That wasn't random. That was someone waking up in real time. Meanwhile, Ed is doing what Ed always does. He's rewriting history. In his tell-all style confession, he claims he rescued Liz, that he gave her stability, that without him, she'd still be struggling. I know what you're thinking. That's not love, that's leverage. And fans are not buying it anymore. X, formerly Twitter, was brutal. Ed didn't want a partner, he wanted a fan. Liz found confidence and Ed found the exit. This man has had more breakups than seasons. But listen to this. There was a blink-and-miss-it moment when Ed admitted he was jealous of Liz's independence. He laughed it when he said it, but he said it. Jealous. That's the crack in the armor, because for years, Liz's vulnerability was part of what kept her in his orbit. When she doubted herself, she leaned on him. When she felt small, he felt big. But once she started therapy, once she started rebuilding friendships, once she started getting attention that didn't revolve around being Big Ed's fiancé, the balance shifted, and that shift terrified him. Now let's talk about the new crush again, because this is where it gets messy. Sources on Reddit claim Liz had been talking to this guy before the final breakup. Nothing physical, but emotional support, late-night texts, advice, encouragement. Is that cheating, or is that survival? TLC frames it as Liz moving on fast, but the timeline feels off, too clean, too convenient, almost like production wanted a redemption arc. But if you've watched this franchise long enough, you know the pattern. Redemption arcs aren't handed out, they're earned. And Liz, she's still in the middle of hers. The real question is whether she's replacing Ed or breaking the pattern, because here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes we don't fall in love with people, we fall in love with the version of ourselves we are when we're chasing them. Sophie is chasing closure, Liz is chasing peace, and Ed is chasing relevance. That might sound harsh, but look at the pattern. Every time Liz pulls away, Ed does interviews. Every time she finds stability, he drops a bombshell. In episode 3, his tell-all wasn't just confession, it was damage control. He talks about feeling disrespected, but doesn't mention the public breakups, the engagement ring returned multiple times, the way arguments became storylines. This is where the 90-Day Dream quietly fell apart for viewers, too, because at some point the chaos stopped being entertaining and started feeling exploitative. And fans are divided. Half say Liz is naive, that she'll repeat the cycle with someone new, that trauma doesn't disappear just because the face changes. The other half say she survived emotional manipulation on national TV and deserves a clean slate. So where does that leave Sophie? In a mirror, because her cycle isn't just about one man, it's about self-worth. When she says she's just checking in, it sounds harmless, but every check-in reopens the wound. Every friendly text blurs the boundary, and Rob knows it. But here's the twist people aren't ready for. There's a theory floating around that production encouraged certain meetups to keep the storyline alive, that some of the random run-ins weren't so random. And if that's true, then Sophie isn't just battling her ex, she's battling a contract. I know what you're thinking. That sounds dramatic, but this franchise has a history of nudging reality for ratings. And that brings us back to Liz. Her new crush might be genuine, or it might be a rebound magnified by cameras, but what matters is how she carries herself now. In episode 3, there's a moment where she laughs. Not the nervous laugh she used around Ed, a real one. It's quick, but it's different. And Ed sees it.
That's why his tell-all feels rushed, like he needed to speak first before the narrative flipped completely. Because once the audience stops seeing Liz as the desperate one, the whole dynamic collapses. This is where the power shifts. But power doesn't guarantee happiness. If Liz jumps into something new without unpacking the old wounds, we're right back here next season. Different guy, same tears. And Sophie, if she keeps answering those late-night calls, she'll stay stuck in that in-between space. Not single, not committed, just emotionally tethered. The 90-day universe has always been about time limits, 90 days to decide forever. But the single life removes the countdown, and that's scarier. No deadline, no visa pressure, just choices. Real ones. So here's what I can't stop thinking about. If Liz's new crush turns serious, will she sabotage it the first time conflict hits? Will she mistake calm for boring? Will she miss the adrenaline of chaos? And if Sophie finally blocks Rob for good, who is she without that storyline, without that struggle? And the biggest question of all, if Big Ed truly told all, why does it still